So why has English heritage...
Oh, here we go. Just turn off the radio there. Right, I'm halfway through, aren't I? Okay. Right, Helen from Dorset. That's where we're up to. Helen from Dorset. Helen, you're awful. You're always very apologetic in your in your replies, and I don't understand why. You're participating well enough. But some people just have natural modesty, eh, Helen? Again, Helen is not at all happy about patients scoring their own quality of life if they've got a chronic illness and a score to 1 to 10. And she says, you know, it's subjective, and it doesn't really mean much between patients. But of course, I've already made the point that possibly this is more of a measure of patient on day 1 and patient on day X. Maybe that's the person's comparing their own lifestyle. And as we know, nobody is an expert on what the patient's own estimation of their quality of life is better than the patient themselves. You know what I mean? That much we must bear in mind. Nobody's going to tell someone that their quality of life is better if they don't think it is. I wonder why, Helen, you didn't apply the same logic to the New York Heart Association. Incidentally, Rena, I'm going to be repeating stuff which I said last week about the New York Heart Association stuff. You know, that almost any simple and easy to apply scale is going to throw up problems of subjectivity and is this really measuring the right thing? You know, and Helen, you've pointed out really effectively here that the New York Heart Association scale uses criteria which are very subjective. I mean, what does comfortable mean? You know, what does comfortable mean? And if I am judging a person according to the New York Heart Association criteria, is comfortable the same for you observing a patient as the same for me? And these New York Heart Association criteria, these are used in both research projects and also recommendations for treatment. You know, this type of treatment ought to be used with class 1s or class 2s. But all of the objections that you put to the patients grading their own quality of life could very easily be put to talking about this too. You know, comfortable, slight limitation. What the hell does slight mean? Now, slight limitation might mean something to you who are grading themselves. That might mean something. But if I'm there judging whether or not somebody's going to get an important form of treatment on the word slight, that's going to separate them between two grades of New York Heart, you can see what the problems are here. Without undue fatigue. What's due fatigue and what's undue fatigue? Who could say? Still useful though. I maintain still useful. Not because it's not because it's entirely watertight. I'm not arguing that, but certainly is a rough and ready guide. Why not? Marie Notsu down in South Wales. She says very kindly at the top of her replies, Iechyd da, diolch yn fawr. And she took me to task quite severely on the question of repeating questions. Yeah, well, you know, really speaking, now you're getting used to the sort of dozy idiot I am, because I don't remember anything. Remember what questions I put in 2 weeks ago? You bar me. I do my best, like, but you know, the one about rheumatic fever crops up a bit again and again. But listen, I'm not really apologising here, because sensitivity and specificity, these are really important problems. These are problems in heart failure, because all of the symptoms that come with heart failure have a low specificity and have a low sensitivity. They throw loads and loads of false positives, and the symptoms of heart failure could be anything. Let's talk about the 3 cardinal symptoms, shall we? Fatigue, breathlessness, and edema. Could be anything. That's the tormenting thing about heart failure. That's why I always lose sympathy with nurses who go on and on moaning about GPs who don't diagnose enough. It's a tough one to diagnose. There's nothing that really clinches it until you've sent them for 300 quid's worth of echo. You know, and you start sending enough people for an echocardiogram that comes out negative, someone's going to have a word with you about wasting money. You know that's true. Specificity and sensitivity in the heart failure context is really important. The beauty about BNP is it puts its finger right on the button, you know. It's not like edema, which could be anything. Could be anything. Could be sits down in the chair too long. Fatigue or breathlessness. Sensitivity and specificity. And the other one I keep asking you about is rheumatic fever. Because don't forget, in my own clinical background, when I was in practice many years ago, half my life was spent looking after patients who'd had rheumatic fever when they were kids. And I'm astonished that it's gone, to be honest with you. Completely astonished. It's one of those things where you feel that sort of sense of achievement as a human being. Smallpox, gone. Diphtheria, gone. Rheumatic fever, gone. When I was a kid, the year that I was born, might have told you this before, don't really care, fresh polio cases in Britain were running at 500 a week. 500 a week. When was the last polio case that occurred in the UK? Not. Doesn't happen, does it? And Marie Notsu describes the interesting case of a bloke who refused all beta blocker therapy. And don't forget with beta blockers. When I was training to be a nurse, there was only 2 things that you knew about heart failure. Don't exercise them too much. Don't let them near beta blockers. Now, the trials that were done to show that beta blockers work were stopped halfway through. Why? Because the benefit from them was so absolutely crystal clear that it was unfair to the control group not to give them the beta blockers as well, right? But this fella, he doesn't want to go on beta blockers because the most important thing in his life is his sex life, and I understand where he's coming from there. If I had a heart attack, I'd be worried, number 1, am I going to survive? And number 2, will it be worth surviving with the drugs they put me on? But what I wonder here, Marie, is I could understand if he was refusing to take nitrates. That I could understand, because nitrates will keep you away from a prescription for Viagra or Cialis. But why wasn't he put on Viagra? You know, what was the thinking? Was he on nitrates at the same time? Couldn't he think of a better approach than nitrates? Or didn't they think he was a suitable case for Viagra? And if that's the case, tell him to come up to Liverpool and I'll take him round the corner from where I live, where you can buy Viagra in the pub. Only joking, but it's true. People round the corner, fellas round the corner will come selling you a ciggy, cheap ciggies in the pub. You can buy cheap films of any type that you fancy, and they'll sell you Viagra in the pub. It's a funny old world that we're in, isn't it? Well, look, everybody. I'm now up to 20 minutes. So next thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to find a journal article using your computer, so you can get it. I have already showed you this, but it bears repeating. You know what I mean? All the best messages in life, you could do it here in a couple of times. So fantastic, everybody, fantastic. I am considering approaching you all about taking part in a short research paper about this module, and gather all the previous students that I've had and see what I can make of it. I am considering it, but we will let that go for now. 2 more things: one about writing your essay, and one about how to seek help from the library. See you, everybody. Nice one.